I like to take the hour on Sundays to really set the tone, really set the proper mindset, the proper expectations, because especially if you're new, you actually don't know what to expect. You're not familiar with what these markets can bring you, what they can bring out of you. There are sides of you that sometimes you didn't know were in there, and especially considering when you're interacting with $1 trillion markets, some daily, some yearly, or some just in total, being thrown into the wolves. If you've been educated through just the traditional system, you have not been prepared to be able to handle what is now in front of you. That's the point of this session, is to get you up to speed, to set the right mindset, the right attitude, the right expectations, to be able to dominate, whether it's day trading, whether it's investing, long term, short term. Most people focus on the technical all the time, and the reality is, once you have your mind in the right place, once you have the proper expectations, once you really know yourself, that's when everything you learn in the technical plays out really smoothly. So a lot of the things, the reality is, you learn the technicals, and you get to a point where eventually it's just practice, it's just developing experience. But the way you communicate with yourself, the mindset, the emotional intelligence, your relationship with your journey, those are things that are going to be absolutely crucial. What I'm going to talk about today, based off of something that Mark Douglas spoke about, he talks about the winning attitude, and I want to expand upon this idea. This is going to be a quick guide today, an express guide towards the winning attitude, inspired by Mark Douglas. Every successful trader that I know, it's never really just been super casual. Most people definitely have, I wouldn't say a hard time, but you just confront versions of you that you're in the process of stripping down. Most people that have tapped into this, you gotta be persevering. There's a sense of resilience throughout mistakes and throughout failures. Here's what happens, because the thing is, we can talk about all the good stuff, all the trades, man. Yeah, these trades are hitting 5 to 1s, 10 to 1s, 25 to 1s, 100 to 1s. We can talk about all that nice stuff, but what I think is more important is, are you prepared for the losses? Do you know how to approach losing in a responsible, in a successful way? Let's say that you take a loss, cool, no big deal. Take another trade, you take another loss. All right, cool, no big deal. Another one, another loss. And then four losses later, now you're irritated, now you're annoyed, you're losing money, you start to stress out a little bit. And so one of the key concepts that separates just your average trader with a disciplined one, with one that's seeing results, is this winning attitude, right? Now, this winning attitude, I would say, it sounds a lot like, if those of you that have heard of Tim Grover, his whole thing is discipline, resilience. He was the private trainer of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. So he's got a specific mindset, and he focuses a lot on resilience. The winning attitude is what allows you to bounce back from the certain pullbacks, the instabilities in the mind. This winning attitude, I think it's one of the more important factors in the journey. Whether you're in the process and you're struggling financially, whether you're going through other personal things, sometimes navigating through this market doesn't seem too easy. We got to talk about what are the kind of things that keep you in the game, so that eventually you are dominating the game. And I think resilience is definitely one of them. It's a skill set, and I believe it can be developed over time. Let's break it down. How to have this winning attitude. How do you make sure that you can stay resilient in the trading game? And I think you have to be aware of your edge, or you have to be aware of, is my trading plan legit? Make sure you trust your trading plan. Sometimes people are trading because someone is teaching you something, someone's put a strategy or a concept in front of you, and you're taking trades, but you're taking them by obligation instead of having that conviction behind the plan, behind how you manage your stop loss, how you exit the market. If you really do want to have that level of approval, or have a system that provides you with a greater chance of a positive outcome happening over another. So it's not saying that you won't lose, and it's not saying that you won't lose a few in a row, but you have to have that internal evidence that you can find profitability based on what you're doing right now, as long as you're doing these things. I want you guys to understand, sometimes you're going to go through losses, especially a few in a row, but your profitability in trading isn't about not losing. And we talk about this pretty often, but I just need to remind you guys that there's something more fundamental about this that maybe you're missing. It's not about not losing, it's about losing, you can say eloquently, it's about taking the right losses. After you take a series of trades, your winners and losers are going to be distributed in a really probable way. What this means is that you won't know when. You don't know when you catch a win or a loss. You won't know when you will catch a win or loss, but you do know your probabilities. This is something where, especially when you take in enough trades, you can start to learn, all right, cool, maybe I win half of my trades. Maybe I win 60% of my trades. Maybe I win 40% of my trades. But when I do win, I'm winning 3 times more, 5 times more, 10 times more, etc., etc. You have to learn to appreciate that. I'll give you an example. You won't know when you're going to catch a win or a loss, but if historically your system has been proven to win 60% of the time, and when you do win, you win 3 times more than you lose, what that means is that if your average winning trade is $300, then your average losing trade is $100. In the long run, that's pretty good. And successful trading is pretty much based on probabilities and peace of mind. And peace of mind, not everyone has access to that. And the people that get this peace of mind usually come from just really understanding their plan and seeing it work. Having the discipline to follow it to a T. Here's a couple of things that you can do so that you can build up that resilience during your journey here. And one of them is notice the unnoticed. So when you're going through some losses, if you're frustrated, if you're disappointed, if you're scared, doubtful, it's because you're only seeing the bad side of things. You're only seeing the bad side of things. And what it means is that you're intentionally blinding yourself to the whole picture. When we get into these emotional standpoints, sometimes you start to miss the small things, just that gratitude, whether it's from the food on your table to the roof over your head to just being able to breathe. Those are amazing things that you can notice. But what happens is we start to focus on the lack. So when you find yourself in a string of losses, sometimes we get stuck focusing on the feelings of lack. We become focused only on the things that we don't like. We're in a tunnel vision. Now, tunnel vision can be powerful. Tunnel vision can be terrifying. And so you're missing out on all the amazing little things in life that are worthy of your time, your focus. Be aware. Where is your focus at? Is your focus on lack? Or, first things first, you gotta notice the unnoticed. 2, practice self-compassion. I'm not saying self-help, nothing. All I'm saying is Self-compassion is important as compassion for others, and what it helps is it creates the ability for long-term happiness. When you're in pain, your mindset will just go into peace and to get through what it is that you're going through. Because every difficult situation is an opportunity to practice this key skill. There's always unexpected emotions that come your way. Are you going to have the emotional intelligence for that? We're building a winning attitude. This is not just, oh, be happy. No. You have to cultivate things. You can cultivate unconditional happiness. You can't look at happiness as something that will just come to you when you have a winning trade or when you've gotten to a certain level of accomplishment. Don't think it is as a destination. You don't just get happiness years later. When you're chasing the happiness, and especially if you think it's behind the winning trade, it's going to make your life miserable. It's always available. Positive states of your mind are skills that you can learn, but a lot of it is also just habitual. Building a habit into seeing the silver lining in the losses. Honestly, I'm being real. I feel like it's silly, but real talk. Like, I think there's a silver lining in literally any possible situation. See the silver lining in all situations. I'm going to give you guys some examples. I think real examples hit home a bit better. Let's say you lose your life savings. You just blew your life savings in your trading. What could possibly be the silver lining in there? And sometimes you lose good things to get great things. Sometimes you cost the price you paid for that lesson, which could have been your life savings in the moment. Sometimes that cost to attain that lesson, if you do it right, if you understand and if you learn, okay, because you don't just lose your life savings. Usually that comes from just mistakes, whether it's greed, whether it's anything else. It might have cost you your life savings in the moment to be able to see the greed that you have inside, but as long as you actually took advantage of that, then your life savings could become your weekly residuals or your daily residuals. That's just perspective. Obviously, that's not like a claim or anything like that, but you do have to see the silver lining in all situations, and this is where you're practicing vision over sight. Now, something else you can also adapt is when things are starting to, let's say, not go your way. You don't have to by force, like just a tank just barreling through. You can definitely take some time to just think. Just because you didn't trade today doesn't mean you're not a trader anymore. Just because you took the week off to just get in the proper state of mind doesn't take away the fact that you're building this skill set. But that's the perk of being a trader or being an investor, is that the markets aren't always tradable. I can't just go to the market and just go, okay, hey, give me my money and just do whatever. Like, you have that ability, that free time. That's why you started in the first place. A lot of traders don't think about it that way. They think they have to trade all the time, and it's a big mistake. It's a massive mistake. Most people, if you feel like you need to be trading all the time, it's because you're focused on either a couple things. Either you have a scarcity mindset, and you think if I don't get it now, I'm never going to get it. Or you think you have to get to a certain status, and that has just more to do with ego. It has more to do with things internally and externally. Your goal as a trader is to make, of course, you want to make some profits and as much as you can. But the reality is when everything's flowing, yeah, go ham. But when things look a little bit harder, when you don't have that clarity, that's when you just take a step back and let the market, let the candles print. Yeah, you're able to take a step back and just assess. Because that's the thing. I feel like the phrase trader is a very ironic title for what it is that we do. Because most of the time you're not trading. Most of the time you're just observing. It's almost like it's a misnomer. Of course you trade, but you're doing a whole lot more observing than you are doing trading. When you're in drawdown, be aware that you might focus on the feelings of lack, but instead you should focus on, what qualities you want to build. And when you do that, your expectations will drop. You'll be more open to learning. You'll trade from a more relaxed, impartial place. Yeah, you just need to let go of the need. This is the key part. You're not letting go of making money. It's not that making money isn't what you're doing. It's the need to do it by a certain time. Because what happens is sometimes losses start to gain more power over you. Over time, losses either build up more strength over you, or they actually lose their power to bother you. And on top of that, if you're trading a system that you know works, which you all should, because you're tapping into the bounce back session, you're tapping into the boot camp, you guys are learning how exactly it is that these institutions are moving, you're going to be surprised by how fast you can get to a pretty good place. How do you get to this winning attitude? Sometimes what happens is you just have to refocus. Sometimes we think that trading is so hard, but it's just because we made it hard. We obsess too much about all the money that we can get and all the results, and we become fearful of losing. But it's not a good strategy to adopt because it makes trading so hard when it shouldn't. That's not the case. Trading isn't hard. When you're able to detach from money, your trades, and the outcomes of it, they just happen. To give you guys the cheesy line, you just have to focus on the process. It's not a goal, but focus on the process. When you're in drawdown, it's not the end of the road. It's just a pit stop. Right? That's why, like I always say, look, and I give you guys this perspective, which is, I think it's such a common baseline to my approach to everything, and it's be, do, have. That's the order in which things happen. Instead of just naturally thinking negatively about the losses you might be going through, you can start to find beauty in them. Find beauty in this part of it. Because if you've accepted, if you made the decision that profitability is in your future, then you know that this part is just a part of it. It's just a chapter of it. Because the future's open. And every second we're writing it. Only when you can be extremely malleable is when you can actually really have a good approach to this. You have to learn to be flexible in these situations. So make it a practice to have conversations with yourself. When you're going through a string of losses, you have to look at it as an opportunity to be more flexible in your thinking, to be adaptable, to never stop learning. Sometimes we get humbled, but it's because we need it. The market, for me, the market's been my favorite teacher. It's been my favorite teacher every time. It positions something about you. Sometimes it's just reminders of things that you know you should be just getting better at. And this is just some things that you can do to build resiliency, to build towards that winning attitude. It's going to take practice. It's going to take experience more than anything. I'm grateful. I'm blessed. Because this is one of those things. I don't think there could have been a better skill set to be exposed to than this, considering like what I had done in my life. The number one skill set that I think I had built up to the date that I started probably was skateboard. And the underlying factor, the underlying skill set or mindset in skateboarding is that resiliency. It's that healthy relationship with failure. Yeah, you got to really understand that. You might be at a point where look at your life and ask yourself, has my life been full of situations where I had to build a thick skin, I had to get up quite a bit, or was I maybe not in that situation? Was most of my life just different? Maybe you were a bit more spoon-fed. And it's not that it's bad or it's good. It's just how things went. There's just different timelines. Because sometimes you're blessed up front and maybe you make up for it later. Sometimes the things that don't make sense in the beginning that might be draining are really just building you and preparing you for something in the future